If you're younger than the consent age, viewer discretion is advised.
Greetings, fellow Ugandans, sons and daughters of the Pearl of Africa. My name is Kaka Emmanuel Peter. I'm a journalist specializing in investigative journalism. But right now I have come to interest you in one of the hottest topics of our country, Uganda, which is the presidential elections nominations 2025-2026, which has so far produced 8 candidates for the position of the president for the years 2026-2031. I want my message to go to all our brothers and sisters watching from every corner of our nation, Uganda, and to those in the diaspora whose hearts beat in rhythm with the struggles of home. I want my message to go to the farmers in the fields of Masaka and Irira, to the teachers struggling in the classrooms in Gulu and Mbale, to the traders in the stalls of Chikubo, and to the taxi drivers currently navigating the bustling streets of Kampala with all its noise and dust, to the unemployed graduates all over our country and everywhere. I want this message to go to a young mother in a clinic in Arua, to the elder whose wisdom is ached with the lines of 40 years of disappointment. I request you to kindly share this message widely, because this is a one-life chance that we need to change our lives, especially the youth. When we don't use this chance widely, we might not get another chance like this. I understand you know we are going into an election for the position of the president. I think every Ugandan knows the importance of leadership and what it is in the determination of how we live our lives socially, economically, in all aspects of life, not only social and economically. We've been told a story. We've been told a story of a savior, a story of inevitable leadership, a story that our silence is the price of peace. But look around you. The story they have told does not match with the reality we live in as people of Uganda. The peace they preach feels like the quietness of a graveyard. The stability the current regime boasts of is the stability of a stagnant pond, related to a stagnant pond, where beneath the surface, life is suffocating. I want to interest you in one candidate here, one of my best candidates. I don't want to just tell you that elect Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, but let me take this opportunity to give you my reasons why Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, among the 8 candidates, among the 8 political parties, NUP and its candidate is the best. I'm not forcing anything on you. I need to teach you this for you to make a lifetime change. This is a once in a lifetime change. As the editor and the moderator at Mediachoicetelevision, I would like to inform the general public that majority of our upcoming programs are going to be made in English for the common understanding of all Ugandans. I know you know that majority of Ugandans have different languages, so the combining language we can use or to understand or to communicate might be English. So that's why we decided to make majority of our programs in the forthcoming election 2026-2031 be made in English. I want you to know that together we shall gather a new story. And this is our story right now. It's not a good story. Our story of courage, of resilience, and unwavering belief in a better tomorrow must start right now. At the center of this new story is a man who emerged not from the barracks of privilege, but from the ghettos of our shared experience. I know you know who I'm talking about. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is the man among all the 8 is going to stand out for us. And this is a one life chance time. This is a one chance. This is a one chance in life to change our lives, especially as the youth. A man whose music first taught us to feel and whose courage now teaches us to fight. Kyagulanyi Sentamu is the only man whose name is a testament to the power of the people. Robert Kyagulanyi Sentamu is our only beloved next president. Call him bobiwine, but he's the next president. I want to assure you that this program might be a little bit long. This speech might be a little bit long. But I want to take this opportunity. Every chance, every breath of changing life must be taken and not taken for granted. Because our suffering has been for so long. It is detailed. Because the problems we face are complex and deeply rooted, if you don't know. It is hopeful because after 40 years of darkness, we have earned the right to dream again in this guy called Kyagulanyi Sentamu. Let us examine in depth our national crisis. I think when I examine in depth our national crisis, that is when you will understand. If I don't examine the depth of a national crisis, you might not be able to understand, or let me help you to expose the failures of a regime that has overstayed its welcome, because right now it is necessary. The imperative choice for Uganda's president for 2026-2031 is Robert Kyagulanyi Sentamu. You cannot understand him, especially the youth, if we don't remind you the burden of 4 decades and a catalogue of failures that we've been going through. Those of you who are young might not know what we have gone through. I myself am 36 years right now. Museveni took over power way before I was born, but I'm right now suffering. He's still a president of a very stagnant nation. To understand the urgency of what I'm talking about now, we must first fully comprehend the weight of the past 40 years. The national resistance government, the national resistance movement that started as NRA under General Yoweri Kaguta Museveni came in power in 1986 on a wave of promises. They spoke of a fundamental change. They condemned the politics of the stomach. They promised security. They promised democracy. They promised prosperity. But what have these 40 years seriously yielded? I'm here to talk to you about what we have endured as Ugandans, such that you don't endure it as young people. You don't endure it as people that God has given a chance to live to see the death of a regime. Imagine, everyone who supports a political party, one of the reasons why you would support is economic growth. But the last 40 years, the NRM has only provided an economic strangulation. Economic strangulation is just simply defined as the prosperity for a few and the poverty for us all. The greatest betrayal of the NRM regime is its economic management, which has been a masterclass in exclusion and inequality. The illusion that Museveni normally says, macroeconomic growth, middle income status, all those things are not visible on ground. You remember him when he went through Weza, he tasked the NRM media team to take satellite pictures of how Weza was. He was bragging about that Weza being a tea plantation, that it used to be a tea plantation. He tasked his team to go and look for pictures of Kampala. He boasts of GDP growth rates. He boasts of the rising per capita income. But what does this mean to ordinary Ugandans like us? What does it really mean to you? Do you really copy anything from Museveni's message? This is a statistical trick. It is a grand illusion. This growth is concentrated in the hands of a tiny political group. A politically connected oligarchy. It is the growth of luxurious skyscrapers he was talking about in Rweza, in Nakasero, that cast shadows over the slums of Katwe, where our president was going to have the first rally. It is the same that he was talking about get satellite images, show these people that this was a plantation. The same of those luxurious skyscrapers will be casting a shadow over those people in Natete where we had our first rally. I want to tell you that it's the growth of imported luxury SUVs that share the road with the broken taxis. When I was starting my message, I talked to those people in the bustling streets of Kampala. Imagine the imported SUVs sharing the same road with the taxi, that whose door, I know you know how our taxis are. A taxi passes like this. It is a door is tied with a rope, like as if it is having what inside? It is people. These are people moving. But we share the same road with Japanese imported SUVs. Imagine. For the majority, the economy is a daily struggle for survival. Inflation has loaded the meager earnings. Museveni cannot understand our pain. When he talks, he seems to boast around figures that don't make meaning to a common person. Imagine the high prices of stuff, even if you make how much money he normally talks about, is taken by the high cost of living, the high prices, the inflation, the valueless money that we have in our country. The price of essential commodities, I want to give you an example as a common man. Salt, sugar, paraffin for our villagers who have not even had a chance to have electricity for the last 40 years, becomes a source of daily anxiety. As a man, you wake up thinking, where am I going to get salt? Where am I going to get sugar? You can't get visitors in Harmony. You feel you are overburdened by a friend of yours coming to say hi. Imagine such a situation. A mother has to choose between buying medicine for her child and paying school fees for another child. Imagine when you're given a choice to choose, should I take a child to hospital or should I pay school fees for a candidate of primary 7 who is paying school fees in the alleged free schools for primary, PLE? Primary, who is going to sit for PLE, UPE, Universal Primary Education, which is of course not free. Imagine that feeling on a mother. How do you make such a choice? This is the real Ugandan economy that we live in. Imagine. However much we are struggling, they are living luxuriously on debts. They mortgaged all of us. As a Ugandan, you understand that you have the heaviest in the region, the heaviest debt burden. As they profit from getting debts from us, for them they become rich from the debts and we must pay. The regime has mortgaged our future to foreign creditors. If you don't know, we are sinking under a mountain of public debt. We have incurred not for the transformative investments that benefit our people, but for the white elephant projects that line the pockets of contractors and the officials. Our children and their children will be born in a nation that is already owned by foreign banks. A nation forced to allocate its meager resources to debt servicing instead of health care and insurance. If you are not aware, Ugandans, they were nominating people. There was parliament there taking loans from foreign banks. You have children right now, but those children and the children they are going to have will have to pay debt to a foreign bank because the current leadership, which is of course a dictatorship, it is actually a crime to call it a leadership, has mortgaged the future of even the unborn. Can you imagine? The suffocation of the local enterprises. The youth of our country, I want to tell you, if we're young Ugandan with brilliant business ideas, you face a wall of obstacles. Access to capital is a nightmare, with banks demanding collateral that is impossible for a first-generation entrepreneur to provide. Who is a first-generation entrepreneur? You have just come out of school, you have these brilliant ideas. You think you're going to make it in life, and the only thing you can do, because your parents sacrificed everything, they have nothing left, is a bank loan. When you go to these foreign sharks, what they will ask is collateral. A first generation entrepreneur, where will you get what to stake, to get secure, to get security for the loan? So all this becomes a nightmare for all of us, because Western banks, foreign banks, of which this regime have mortgaged the whole economy, cannot give you a loan as a first generation. You need to first go and struggle, or steal, or move out of the country, make money, and then come back to start thinking of opening a small shop. Imagine. Corruption in our country is the unofficial tax on every business transaction. If you're starting a business, you must look for capital to invest in a government official to allow you to get a license. If you need a license, you must pay a bribe. If you need an inspection of a new place you're opening, you must pay a bribe. Meanwhile, as you're paying bribes, the well-connected foreign companies are given tax holidays and preferential treatment, killing the local competition before it can even start. I know you understand my words. I know I must give you reasons why Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu is our generation. He's actually not doing it for himself. He's doing it for us all. He's doing it for the rest of us, I want to assure you. Meanwhile, these other companies I was talking about, the well-connected ones, politically connected, are given preferential treatment. What does preferential treatment do? It kills local competition before you can even start a business, if you are not aware. The Ugandan dream of owning a business, of being self-reliant, is systematically crushed. The system crushes your dream before your dream even begins. But imagine, even at the worst of the economy, still the politicians think they are doing everything right. We are in a political desert, and they just come to be praised. If you don't praise them, they don't give you peanuts. This is a country where democracy has withered. I understand all of you know. The NRM regime has not just failed economically, it has systematically dismantled the very foundations of democracy in the country called Uganda. It started with the abolition of the presidential term limits. The most blatant act of political cannibalism was the removal of the term limit from the constitution. Only this single act transformed our nation from a potential democracy into a de facto monarchy. If you don't know, that's why you hear everyone now, the son, the sons-in-law, the uncles, I came with so and so, feel like they own us. The removal, that single act of removing term limits, condemned us to a de facto monarchy. It sent a clear message that now our country, Uganda, our state, which had to be a republic, which had to be a democratically governed republic, is a personal property to one family, not a public trust. The will of one man has superseded the will of all of us, if you are not seeing it. All institutions and their integrity have been eroded. Our institutions in the country Uganda, I know you can witness this, have been captured and hollowed out. The parliament that is meant to be the voice of the people has been reduced to a rubber stamp, approving dubious loans and constitutional amendments at the whim of the executive. The executive orders, they stamp. Can you imagine? We have a Speaker of Parliament who calls this one the father. His son, he calls him the son. The wife of the president calls her the Holy Spirit. Imagine, that one is the head of the parliament that you expect to do a lot for you. It is being captured and reduced to rubber stamping. What is it doing? Stamping dubious loans and constitutional amendments for the benefit of one guy who claims to be coming from the executive. The other arm of our country, Uganda, which has to be the judiciary, is meant to be the guardian of justice, has seen its independence repeatedly compromised. Every time there is no judicial independence, when a judge rules against the state, they face intimidation and they transfer them to distant places. You're not supposed to be here. They went to school, but anyone can transfer them because someone in the first family got annoyed. The police and the army. There's a lot I can speak about this, but because of time, I want to interest you in something. Let me speak less about the police. That will be a topic of another day. These are meant to protect citizens, but they have been transformed into a militia group for protecting the regime, brutalizing unarmed protesters, arresting opposition figures on trumped-up charges. The politics of violence and intimidation has ruled our country. Elections in Uganda are not peaceful exercises. This is not a civic duty that we all ought to get ourselves involved. These are periods of terror. I understand all of you Ugandans know that the days ahead of us are days of terror. The reign of this NRA regime has terrorized us, especially in the times of the elections. Supporters of all those that oppose the regime are abducted. You understand, they are tortured, and very many times many of them don't make it out of their basements. They don't come out. Campaign rallies are disrupted by state-sponsored goons. Imagine someone saying he's a musician, and he goes and kills someone, and because he sings for a certain leader, then he cannot be arrested. Can you imagine? State-sponsored goons are expected to disrupt peaceful rallies of those that oppose the regime peacefully and legitimately. For us in the media, we are cowed into self-censorship. You know, when it is time for elections and a journalist cannot say anything, are you aware that the minimum broadcasting standards of the Ugandan media are targeting those who speak against the government? You cannot say anything tangible. You cannot say anything practical when you're working for Ugandan television. The only thing you must sing is a song of praise of the regime. So that's why many of the journalists, when it comes to the time of the elections, they go into self-censorship. They cannot work. They fear to lose their lives. Imagine. I want to tell you that these are the most prominent reasons why you should come out right now to give us your vote. Do you know why the regime does all this? The message is clear. Dissent is dangerous. Uganda has no democracy. The process we are going through right now is not democracy, but it is a ritual of coercion designed to give a thin veneer of legitimacy to an illegitimate process. You would think that some people might be okay with being poor, or others might be okay with being forced into self-censorship, and you think that socially as Ugandans, we might be together. But you know what the NRM did first? Was to tear and to tatter the social fabric. The social consequences of this rule, the one we are experiencing now, are very devastating. Our healthcare system has collapsed in Uganda. Our hospitals bear me witness, are monuments of neglect. Do you really get service when you go to these hospitals, especially the government hospitals? They even lack the basic drugs, equipment, and even the personnel. The personnel are there, but the regime, the dictator thinks, if I get so many doctors, if I pay them money, they will get money to oppose my regime. Imagine. Patients are forced to buy their own gloves, the smallest a government can offer, but patients must buy their own gloves, their own syringes, their own medicine. Mothers die giving birth in facilities that resemble abandoned warehouses. If you have ever gone into a Ugandan hospital, you can bear me witness. They look like disaster-struck warehouses, abandoned long way before Independence Day. Can you imagine? The promise of a universal health care was a cruel joke. Even a simple malaria diagnosis can bankrupt a simple family member in Uganda. Just doing diagnosis for a malaria suffering child, you become bankrupt. There is no medicine, nothing, no equipment. As if that is not enough, you would think that the English we speak, we get a better education. But a system, our education, the system is failing a generation. The First Lady is the current Minister for Education. But imagine our schools are crowded and underfunded. Teachers are architects who are supposed to be architects of our future. Among the worst, actually the most disrespected and poorly paid professionals. The curriculum is extremely outdated. It is simply designed to produce obedient followers, not critical thinkers and innovators. Can you imagine a country that does not invest in research? Our universities are producing graduates for whom there are no jobs, creating a ticking time bomb of a frustrated and educated youth. You would think that, let me say education, what? Let me go back to my village and relax there and maybe find chances within my tribe mates. Museveni has been a master of playing negatively the tribal card and the card of division. To maintain power, the current regime has perfected the art of division. They pit tribe against tribe, religion against religion, region against another region. You know how they came up with a map without Uganda? I don't know whether you remember that. They want to see us, they want to see each, it looks like they want to see us as each other. There is no uniformity, there is no togetherness. I would give you an example. They want to see Banyankole as versus Baganda, Catholics versus Muslims, rather than Ugandans being united by a common struggle. This poisonous strategy, I'm telling you, Ugandans, especially the youth, weakens us all and prevents us from uniting around our shared national interests. This, I'm telling you, my friends, is the true legacy of the 40 years of the NRM rule. It is a legacy of economic robbery, political oppression, a societal decay. It is a story of promises broken and a nation held as hostage. Imagine. But I want to assure you, don't lose hope. Because from time God has remembered us, and you have seen a rise of the people's president in a guy called bobiwine and his NUP, National Unity Platform. When we are in the darkest hour, God provided us a light. In this room, if I did not have a light, you wouldn't be able to visibly see me right now. I want to tell you, Ugandans, let's not cry. Uganda has been remembered by God. In the darkest hour, a light has emerged. And our light did not come from a palace. If you thought that the liberator will come from the palaces, will be this so-called son, son of the Holy Spirit. No. Ours has not come from the palace or a foreign capital. We have not made anyone from the USA. We have not got anyone from London. We have not got anyone from Sweden. Ours came from the ghettos of Kamocha. Our light came from the young man with a guitar, whose voice first captured our hearts before his courage captured our political imagination. Who imagined before him that seriously someone can come from the ghetto, throw a guitar and pick a microphone for political direction? Can you imagine? Many of them are even still shocked that the guy had dreads. The guy used to smoke. No. God remembered us and picked out from the ghetto and he gave us a chance. I want to tell you, He has given us courage and captured our political courage. I'm assuring you. Let me use this time to tell you something about Robert Kyagulanyi's journey. Robert Kyagulanyi's journey is not just a personal story. It's not his story and Bobi's story or his son Kampala. It's a story of modern Uganda in microcosm. I want to tell you, he came from the ghetto to national stage, and this is a sign of power, of authenticity. The guy is very authentic. Bobiwine did not learn about poverty from a textbook. He lived it. He understands the struggle because he's a product of it. His authenticity is his greatest strength. I'm telling you, when he speaks about lack of opportunities for the youth, he's speaking from experience. When he speaks about lack of opportunities for everybody, he's saying it from the bottom of his heart. When he talks about struggles of a hustler, he's recounting his own history, if you didn't know. This stands in the stark contrast to the current leadership, which is utterly disconnected from the daily realities of the people it claims to govern. They fly in private jets. Bobiwine has ridden in the same taxis as we have. They live behind high walls. Bobiwine's roots remain in the community. This connection is not a political strategy. It is his identity, if you're not aware. The evolution of his revolutionary strategy came from music to a movement. His music was the first phase of his activism, if you are not aware. I know you know his songs. Much of them that I know is like Chiwan. I'll use Chiwan because the whole of the dictatorial regime is trying to unseat. He was a Chiwan. Tugambire ku Jennifer, the pain of the Kampala people. Just crafting a statement that all of us can identify with. Situka tutambule, you remember, this was not just entertainment. This was social commentary. Ugandans, vote Robert Kyagulanyi Sentamu, I'm telling you. He gave a voice to us, the voiceless, if you're not aware. He speaks the truth to power in a language that resonates with the masses. You have seen him speaking the truth. Whatever he says, however much you try to juggle and dismiss it, it is the message for all of us, even those who have cowardly hid under their beds. He comes out to speak on their behalf because he speaks for us. He's been us, so he's us. He's not speaking from hidden walls of gold, sitting in golden chairs. He used his art to educate. He used his art to mobilize, to awaken a political consciousness, especially among people of my age. I'm moving towards an adult age. At 35, I cannot call myself young, but at least I can call myself in the end days of being a youth. I'm an old man. I have children, but I'm wondering how the current regime calls me a grandchild. I'm a grandchild of my grandmother who died last week. My grandmother died last week. I'm sending you this message. My grandmother died at the age of 106 years. 106 years. My grandmother told me a lot of things before she died. She seriously died last week. May her soul rest in peace. Omukyala Nakyanzi Rosemary. She told me she was here before Museveni. From her wisdom, that's where I get to talk what I'm saying right now. But let me not be overshadowed by the emotion of losing my grandmother. Let me concentrate on the reason why I'm here. I want to remind you that when Bobiwine transitioned into formal politics as a member of parliament of Kyadondo East, he did not change. He took the spirit of the ghetto, the resilience, the honesty, the defiance to the halls of parliament. If you don't remember, he became the voice of the marginalized within a system designed to silence all of us, especially the marginalized. His arrest, his torture, the brutalization of his supporters, everything. These were not setbacks in his struggle to take us to the promised land. These were not setbacks. He was baptized by fire, if you don't know. Each act of state-sponsored violence only revealed the weakness of the regime and strengthened the resolve of us, the people, to fight more. He has shown, he's seriously showing us a level of courage that is rare in our political landscape. Many political actors you're seeing right now are not courageous to his level. I think you have seen people being bought in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and coming out to blame each other. You attended the meeting, I was there for you. As if Ugandans, all our country is just a piece of cake to share. There is a way they see themselves as if they are the chosen few. But at least Bobi Wine has been baptized by fire. He's been a champion, and he's gave us the resolve of the people to push for more. He has shown a level of courage that is very rare. Currently, as you see the political landscape, a willingness to sacrifice his own comfort, his liberty, and even his life, by the way, for the ideas he believes in. So I want to assure you, everybody who is watching my video, that Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu represents the blueprint for a new Uganda. That's why he's the best candidate for 2026-2031. A critic is only as good as his alternative. Bobi Wine and the National Unity Platform offer not just criticism, but a comprehensive, well thought out vision for a renewed Uganda. If you don't know, this is not a list of empty promises. It is a covenant with us, the people, who are going to vote him into power. Eno ndagaano bwembate mukimanyi mwena mugyegatteko. He is providing solutions to the things I've talked about, the failures. And the prime failure is the economic downfall of our country, orchestrated intentionally by the dictatorial regime. But Bobi Wine is offering an economic revolution, which of course has to signal a serious prosperity for all, not these lies of circles. I hear Myoga, when Kasolo steals the money, he goes for him, he constructs hotels. Those were just lies, but he's a reflection of prosperity for all. The cornerstone of the new Uganda will be an economy that works for everyone, not for a privileged few. I understand however much you are support of someone, you need to prosper economically to see the next day of your leader. So economic prosperity must be at the forefront of anyone who comes to you seeking for election into a big office. A shift from the crony capitalism to social market economics. The state will not run businesses, if you're not aware. In Bobi Wine's government, is not intending for the state to run businesses like what you were seeing. Everybody who is involved in export trade is a member of the family. Everybody who is involved in gold mining is a member of the family. Bobi Wine is promising you a state that is not involved in making profits out of its own people. But he's creating an economy that will fiercely enable an environment for Ugandan entrepreneurs. What does this mean? As I told you, the suffering of someone who is just coming into business, that establishing a national development bank. Bobi Wine, I heard and I read, and I'm telling you, establishing a national development bank, not like what you're seeing, Uganda Development Bank for a few. Those who don't rear cows like the big man cannot have access to loans. This bank will be dedicated to providing affordable, patient capital to small and mid-sized enterprises. I know many of us fall within the SMEs, if not the S or only. You know, there are very few people who are in medium enterprises. All of us almost are in small enterprises. Those who have got a chance maybe to create a stall there to sell tomatoes. He will provide swift loans to the youth innovators and farmers with a focus on those who have been historically excluded. You know, Ugandans have been left out, if you don't know. Now, those of you, especially those who went to the bush with Mr. Museveni, You've been historically excluded from almost everything. This guy is a forgetful dictator. He's a forgetful old man. Imagine even the people came with from the bush. But I want to assure you, people or veterans, that in the coming government, those of you who've been historically and intentionally forgotten, he will provide better for you. As you all are aware, Uganda is a country that its backbone is, the backbone of our country is agriculture. Agro-industrialization is key in what he's talking about. But still, however much there is agriculture, Uganda should be moving from the economy of being a raw material exporter to a processor. He will build factories in our rural areas to add value to coffee, cotton, tea, and the fruits, which has been a failure in this current regime. This will create millions of jobs and keep the wealth within our communities, not to be taken in offshore accounts, be concentrated in one area, one region. When industrialization, when these factories are brought to your area, the wealth is distributed among all areas, even the rural, the most remote. You'll be able to make some money. I want to tell you that this will create a lot of jobs for all of us. Digital economy leapfrog, if you're not aware, the world all over is moving from the traditional systems that this government is getting you stuck into. But the digital economy leapfrog will be about recognizing that the future is digital, and the Bobi's administration will invest heavily in digital infrastructure. Many of you, including me who is here talking to you, I love to see Uganda in a better digital, with a better digital infrastructure. Because innovators of these days do not hold guns. Innovators of these days hold sketches and tablets. Innovators of these days take advantage of artificial intelligence. That is the raw material. Artificial intelligence is now the raw material for making stuff these days. I don't know why you cannot, I want to interest you in a president who will be able to use artificial intelligence to provide you a raw material for your development. Who will ensure a broad access, actually a nationwide access to broadband, promoting skills like coding, tech skills in schools, and support of a growth and a vibrant tech startup ecosystem. I know Ugandans, you are much aware. Chinese are developing because of tech. Dubai is developed because of tech. Elsewhere, everyone, including the remote, even those Arab countries that speak Arabic, have ventured into tech. That's why sometimes I hear big superpowers claim that these countries have become a problem. They manufacture missiles, but that is a work of science. And that is a work that arises from a proper and well-strategized tech ecosystem. I don't know whether you understand what I'm talking about. And that is what we stand for in the future. And we must elect a president who will stand for that. Uganda will become a hub of innovation in Africa. I want to assure you. As one of the things that we are suffering, we are suffering a huge debt, 94 trillion currently. Even when Museveni dies right now, I don't know what we will do to pay for the prices of the old dictator, a very forgetful old man. Bobiwine will do a debt audit and restructuring. He will conduct a comprehensive audit of all public debt to cancel odious and fraudulent debts. He will negotiate with creditors for sustainable restructuring to free up resources for development. We are not developing because everything we get is used to pay debts, and they are not stopping, they are getting extra debts. Every time debts. What happens to the money they get from taxes? What happens to all the resources that Uganda has? I want to tell you that in the man called Robert Kyagulanyi, there will be fiscal justice and the fight against corruption. Corruption will be treated as a national security emergency, because I think all of you are aware we are sinking. And why are we sinking? We are sinking because of corruption. People get money out of the country and take it on offshore accounts, and they remain in power. Stooges standing in the same position all 7 consecutive non-stop years speaking the same rhyme that has never come to pass. Imagine. Date and corruption must become a national security emergency with the new leader, Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. I want to end this broadcast by telling you, in the forthcoming elections, I want you to vote Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. He will help us to strengthen institutions which will empower, especially I want Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, when he's in power, to empower the Inspectorate of Government and the Auditor General's office with real teeth. You capture a corrupt person, you send the report to Museveni. The IGG orders for the arrest of a corrupt person, and Museveni says, why didn't you consult me? In the coming regime, 2026, 2031, under Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, I want to request him to strengthen the office of the Inspectorate of Government and the Auditor General with the power to get someone, imprison them, and give them the respective punishment for whatever they have stolen. I must call upon all Ugandans to ensure that when we elect Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, we task him to ensure independence from the executive interference of these organizations that must fight corruption. And I want to tell you, very many people out there in government wanting to give someone information about who stole. But when you speak of who has stolen money, then you become the problem. You're fired, and sometimes reaching extreme extents of being killed. We want a whistleblower and witness strong protection system. You know, strong laws have to be enacted to protect and reward citizens who expose corruption. Because corruption has been there for time immemorial, but it's become worse with Museveni. It has become the worst in Africa with Museveni. We need a transparent public procurement, and the only person who can deliver a transparent public procurement has to be Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, where all government contracts are published online for public scrutiny. This is the era of seeing the era we are living in is single sourcing and inflated contracts, where people give themselves contracts and they determine how much is bought and where it has to be bought. It's people of the same family. We need a serious scrutiny. Serious scrutiny, and actually an online scrutiny for all public procurements. They cannot be made by one simple dictator and his family. We need the restoration of the rule of law, democratic governance, and the only person I can see doing that is Kyagulanyi Ssentamu. I think the current government of our country needs a serious or a fundamental reset in the governance, all the governance system, all the governance of our country. We need serious constitutional reforms. For any president, especially Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, we need that for at least the first 100 days, he initiates a process to restore presidential term limits and strengthen other democratic safeguards to prevent the concentration of power ever again. Museveni has a lot of power and he enjoys it. And the more he gets more power, the more he feels like what is left even for the L1 chairperson or for the defense of the area is his own entitlement. We need a president who can safeguard and prevent concentration of power ever in our country again. We need independent institutions. For example, we need someone who will ensure the operational and financial independence of the judiciary, the parliament, and the electoral commission. Currently, we are going to win this election with a very dependent electoral commission on the current regime. The person who is now a seventh time presidential runner is the one in charge of paying whoever is going to announce the winner. And you expect us to get what? But I think we can do it as Ugandans. We need to overwhelmingly wake up the door of election and override the system with massive votes. Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, and see and prepare to demand our victory when it is rooted from us. In Robert Kyagulanyi Center, we expect independent institutions. That's why I'm calling upon all of you to trust him with the leadership. We need reforms in the security sector, where the army and police can be restrained and reoriented to be servants of the people. If you are not aware, these people must be protectors of the constitution, not defenders of a regime. Torture chambers must be closed forever, and the perpetrators of human rights abuses must be held accountable. It's not about changing leadership and people saying now in New Uganda we need to do things differently. No, we need to bring to justice those people, and they need to be accountable for the crimes they committed when committing it on human flesh. We need social transformation. Social transformation, I mean, a president, Robert Kyagulanyi Center, to invest in human capital. Because human capital is the greatest resource of every nation. If you don't invest in the people of the country, how do you expect the country to change or to transform to a better country? We seriously need a president who will invest in his people. We need a healthcare system that is not a privilege of the few. We need a healthcare system that is right for all of us. I want to assure the Ugandans that Robert Kyagulanyi Center will significantly increase the health budget to ensure that every healthcare center has essential drugs, equipment, and the most important thing is motivating the staff. Imagine in this country where someone is ever caring of the sick, the almost dying people, the blooded, the accident victims, and he goes home walking barefoot. He goes home walking just when the so-called political leaders are driving SUVs guarded in a motorcade of 100 cars. And this guy who spent the whole day nursing wounds and blood walks home on an empty stomach. I hear doctors in the evening wanting to spare some time to drop around the market to buy some essentials from a meager kind of tip given by a patient. Imagine such a healthcare system. In Robert Kyagulanyi Center, he will significantly increase the health budget, and I assure you, he will motivate those people who are staff in the health sector. I want him to implement a national health insurance scheme to ensure that no Ugandan has to sell their property to pay for medical care. Every day that you get a sick person, you call someone to take your TV. You call some guy, a broker, get for me someone to sell this TV. My child is sick. Because you cannot afford the healthcare system of your own country. You cannot afford to pay the same doctors you paid school fees to learn medicine. Can you imagine? What befell of our country, really, Ugandans? We need a liberated education system. Education for liberation, not for subjugation. He will transform the curriculum to foster critical thinking, creativity, and patriotism. He will invest in vocational training equipment to the youth. Those of you who did not go to school to get this formal education, you have a right to get practical skills. But how are you going to get them when the president does not care about vocational studies? I understand that the biggest demotivation of the education sector are the teachers themselves. I understand, and I'm here to assure you, teachers will be paid a living wage. Teachers will be paid a living wage to commensurate with their noble profession. Teachers, your profession is very noble. You deserve more than what this regime can give you. Only what can deliver you to that noble cause is a protest regime. Vote Kyagulanyi Center Mu. You will not at all, at any time, regret. Seriously, as Ugandans, we need to reconcile. Museveni has divided the whole country for all this time because of power. He does not allow a cohesion. He does not allow people to come together and talk. The national unity and reconciliation is one of the key goals. That's why NUP is National Unity Platform. Bobiwine will actively promote politics of inclusion, celebrating the diversity of our country as a strength, not as just a tool used to oppress the people. A nation has to reconcile. And he will put a national reconciliation process which will be initiated to heal the wounds of the past 40 years that these guys have inflicted on all of us. This is why Bobi Wine is there. Only choice. Let me take the last minutes of this program to compare the past and a guy called Bobi Wine. The NRM offers a continuation of the past, a tired, a geriatric vision stuck in the 1980s. I want to tell you that Bobi Wine offers a dynamic, youthful vision fit for the 21st century. People are stuck in the past. Every time Museveni is saying, for us in the bush, for us in the bush. Every person who is in this government is stuck. But here is a revolutionary leader who offers a dynamic, youthful vision for the 21st century. We are living not in the 1940s, before even our country was ruled by the whites, by the British. The guy is stuck there. Imagine exclusion versus Bobi Wine's inclusion. When you look at the NRM's model, is for the selected few. But Bobi Wine's message is one of hope, courage, and collective action. If you're not aware, if you have not taken time to listen to him, feel free to find his speeches everywhere online. You'll just have to learn that this is the guy who wants to include all of us in his system. He's a guy who will exchange fear with hope. The NRM's primary tool is fear. And Bobi Wine's message is one of hope, courage, and collective action. NRM provides a closed society. Our leader provides an open society. This current regime right now thrives on secrecy and control. Bobi Wine, on the other side, promises a government of transparency and accountability. So right now, as we march to 2026, the journey of 2026, I want to assure Ugandans, will not be easy. The regime must use and will use, as it has been, every trick in the book of intimidation, violence, bribery, electoral fraud, to maintain its grip on power. But you, the people I'm talking to in this video, you have the power and you can defeat this system. And the power you have is not of the guns. The power you have is not of intimidation. The power you have is the power of the people, is the people power. Our task is very clear. Register to vote. Make sure you're a registered voter. Ensure that you check whether they have not removed you from the voters register. Ensure you have a voters card. This voters card and the national ID is a weapon against oppression for the coming years. Guard it well. I want to tell you Ugandans to stay vigilant, protect your vote, be a poll watcher, document every malpractice and spread the message. Talk to your family first. Talk to your friends. Talk to your neighbors. Dispel the fear of this current regime and the misinformation. But as you do that, I'm requesting you to remain peaceful but defiant. Our struggle is a non-violent struggle. We cannot be dragged into this fiasco. We are not going to allow to be cowed. Fellow Ugandans who are watching me right now, this hour is upon us. We stand right now at the crossroads in our history, our own history. One path leads back to the darkness we have known for 40 years. The other path leads forward to a new dawn, to a Uganda that is free, prosperous, and just. I'm telling you, Robert Kyagulanyi is more than a candidate. He's a symbol. He's the embodiment of our collective yearning for change. He's the ghetto child who dared to challenge the emperor. He's our son, our brother. I want to assure you, he's our hope. But as we do this, let us march forward. 1,000 miles, like it is said, starts with a single step. Let us take that step, not as individuals, but let us do this together. Let us walk this path together. Let us win the victory together for Uganda, for freedom, for our children. We need bobiwine. And here, I want you to say, people power, our power. Our power, people power. I want you to spread this message. Thank you for listening. And as a journalist, the other side of me, in my other time, my job is journalism and especially investigative journalism. But as a citizen of Uganda, I do social and political activism. I want to thank you for listening to me. But back to being the editor of Media Choice Television. Majority of our programs in the future are going to be made in English for the common understanding. All our comrades in the diaspora, please, I want to appreciate all the efforts since the last struggle that we lost. We did not lose because we had to lose. It was stolen. They grabbed our victory from us. Don't give up. Our friends in the diaspora, your voice is greater than the voice of the locals who've been chained, who have been encircled by the dictatorial regime. At least for you, you are free. Your only problem will be to keep quiet in the time when they need you to speak up. Please don't keep quiet. People in the diaspora, we appreciate all the effort, small or big or huge. We appreciate all the contributions, small or huge or big or medium. But everything counts now in the struggle to liberate ourselves. My name is Kanka Emmanuel Peter. I'm born in an NRM family. But I realized in a capsizing boat, no one is safe. When a boat is sinking, we are all heading to the abyss. And in this useful age, I have come to realize that the problems of the person putting on yellow are the same problems of the person quarreling in red, another in a stripped shirt. It is the same group of people that is making us suffer. So the rest of us must come together. Thank you so much for listening to me. May God bless the Pearl of Africa. May you live to see a new leadership in Robert Kyagulanyi Center, bobiwine. Thank you and goodbye.